Podcasting is a great way to engage with your audience and stay consistently relevant. The only problem is you don't have the time or desire to produce your own show. You simply want it done for you, and that's where Social Chameleon comes in. All you need to do is press record and upload the files. We'll handle the rest. From planning, production, post-production, distribution, and digital marketing, we have you covered. We realize that times are tough and funds are tight, and Social Chameleon believes in building supportive business relationships. By clicking on the link in this promo, we'll provide you 7 free podcasting tips to get started, as well as a free 30-minute online consultation. This is the perfect opportunity for entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, industry experts, influencers, and anybody who has a personal brand. With Social Chameleon, we help you build a brand that is out of this world. We're ready and waiting, so what are you waiting for? Click on the link to get started today. Hey guys, our guest today is an entrepreneur with an innate heart for supporting others. Her mission is to help reshape the culture of the traditional workforce by providing professional, flexible employment for her team while also providing entrepreneurs with strategic workforce options to help them grow more efficiently and effectively. She speaks nationally on the topic of delegation, automation, remote workforces, and flex work culture. She's been featured in Forbes as the top 50 remote employer, contributed articles to the Huffington Post, and she's been highlighted in the New York Times, Inc. magazine, NBC News, Stewart Radio, as well as numerous podcasts. She is Goldman Sachs 10K SB alum and is a graduate of the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn. She founded Delegate Solutions, which was born out of her desire to create meaningful professional work from home so that she could be available to raise her young son. A decade plus later, Delegate is a flex work success story. Welcome to the show, the founder and CEO of Delegate Solutions, Emily Morgan.
Thank you, Mike. I'm so honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
This is great. I mean, I can learn so much from you, but most importantly, our audience is a lot of young entrepreneurs, I feel, from conversations with many of them. And they tune in to get a little bit of insight from all my guests. Everybody has their own unique story. We talked about this off camera. What I'd really love us to learn is a little bit of your backstory, how you got to where you're at today. Like, why do you do what you do? You could have picked anything as an entrepreneur, but this meant something to you. You had your young son, you wanted to be at home. But it wasn't just simply, hey, you could have got a job as a stay-at-home mom or, work from home mom, right? But that's not what your passion was. It was about turning the world of virtual assistants into something bigger. So please share that. And what I want to do, actually, before we do that, your website is delegatesolutions.com. So if you guys are listening to this right now, you can check that out while Emily tells her story. On Instagram, it's very simple. It's all together, Delegate Solutions. And on LinkedIn, it's linkedin.com/IN/Delegate Solutions. Emily Morgan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so I'm an English major raised by 2 teachers and a stay-at-home mom, or my mom was a stay-at-home mom turned teacher. So my exposure to entrepreneurship was not there at all when I started my business. I really started it to be present, to take care of my son and not have to commute into Philadelphia every day.
Sure.
At the time, I had been working at UPenn after I graduated. So I knew that I loved administrative work, but I didn't want to subscribe to this whole corporate 9 to 5 with a commute with a baby. So that's really why I started the company.
Right. And then when you were doing that, did you notice that other people you weren't alone? Maybe there were other moms out there or just people in general that were really hard workers wanting to, light the world on fire. But where were the options from doing that from home? They're always you see these quirky work from home things. You get the emails you can make $75K a month working from home, and they never tell you the name of the company.
Right.
All right. This is not what we're talking about, folks. We're talking about actually running a legitimate business and doing it remotely. So, did you, prior to that, though, have kind of an entrepreneurial spirit? Were you the kid that was selling candy bars, that kind of thing?
Not at all. I always thought I'm going to be a teacher. My degree was in English so that I could do that. I was raised by teachers and just assumed that was my destiny.
Yeah. Well, you are teaching now, right? Let me make sure my homework is accurate. Virtual entrepreneurship at the collegiate level, right?
In the
Is that
past,
accurate?
I have, but I think
Okay.
I teach more just in webinars and content and things like that these
Yeah.
days.
Some of those traits from your parents kind of rubbed off on you and you feel you're good in front of people. Obviously, I know your team loves you. Shout out to Krista Hershella, who connected you and I today. And she spoke extremely highly of you. And I worked with scheduling this with George on your team. So being a leader is not an easy thing. I have a very small team. I actually work myself with a couple VAs. One's a production assistant. Another one is my, kind of my right-hand woman, I'll say, but executive director of the company is a VA. So, I mean, you could have a VA almost be any position on your team as long as it's not a physical need that they need to be in your office to do. So I want to jump in right there, the world of virtual assistants, because as a solopreneur, like I just mentioned, I understand the importance, but our audience may be looking for a deeper dive, right? So let's start at the beginning. How important is remote delegation to today's entrepreneur, right?
Well, today more than ever, right? So for 13 years that I've had my company, I feel like I've been on a soapbox talking about why remote work works, why flexwork works, why you can
Right.
think differently. And like overnight, poof, everything. Now everyone is forced to address
Mhm.
this. And that's created different challenges for us on the staffing side. Even though we were remote, we were actually deeply impacted because one, we support small business owners who were impacted. And two, like you shared, the majority of my team were moms, and moms were most impacted, I feel, in COVID than any other group because now they're homeschooling and the kids don't even have school. And so we did so many things to support our team, my son included,
Mhm.
through the pandemic. But it's just been a whole amazing shift of acceptance around remote work and how to think differently about getting stuff done.
Yeah, we're in the middle of the pandemic while we record this. So the world of VA was you mentioned it's impacted because the people that virtual assistants are serving are small businesses, and those obviously have been highly impacted. Bigger businesses it's almost like the bigger you are, the bigger you fall kind of thing, right? So everyone's impacted on different levels, but sometimes if you're a little bit smaller, it could clip your whole business, right? So obviously it is impacted in that way, but do you feel that there's in some way the world of VAs is now thriving due to the pandemic because they were already operating remotely and there's not this like learning curve where a lot of companies are having a hard time. I'll just say this real quick. I heard a really neat analogy I think works really well. You know those big, what is it, like ocean liners are they called? Like the giant ships that for that thing to turn around 180 degrees would take like a half hour. Where
Yep.
if we're in a speedboat that's pretty steady, it's got some good size to it though, but it can rip. Like you could turn around a lot quicker. So one business could kind of pivot and turn around, and those working with VAs are already kind of ahead and they can turn. Or like the big old school company that's like, oh, everyone's got to be sent home, call center mentality. Like we cannot do that. We need to be micromanaging them all day long. Had a lot harder. Would you agree? A harder transition.
Totally. And I think a lot of them, we were educating from day one around how to do this. So when everything shut down, we're doing webinars around best practices. Hey guys, this is what you need to be thinking about. So we were in education mode, but we took probably 25 to 30% hit on revenue at the beginning of COVID. But now we are stronger than ever. We're busier than ever. We're hitting numbers we've never hit before.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in a position to thrive, which I'm
Yeah.
grateful for because a lot of my friends are not, their businesses were just totally impacted.
And it's hard to say that, I know, because I'm the same way. Gratitude's something I live by. Be great and be grateful is my tag. I'm sure you've seen it in my emails too. But it's not like we're saying, oh, we wake up one day and we're excited that the pandemic's going on because virtual assistants are more busy than ever. That's not really what you're saying. You're just saying, look, we're making the best of the situation. We're dealt a bad hand and we're winning right now. It's like a game of poker. You're dealt a bad hand and you still may win the hand because you handled it correctly. So, everyone in life is dealt different hands. Some people come out ahead in the beginning. Some people are way behind in the beginning. It's what we do with it. It's the day to day, taking responsibility for your actions and then taking action, knowing what you're responsible for, right? Never thought about it that way, but I think I just said something that's actually sounded pretty good. No, but you get what I'm saying, like moving forward consistently, right? And adding those little steps into the daily plan. And now you're thriving because of it.
Yeah, I mean, just keep moving. I'm telling you, I was hysterically sobbing like in March, and I was told you have to lay off your people. Like, it was a terrifying and traumatic experience. I've never been told that. And we did not lay anyone off, thank God, but we were on the eve of doing that. So
yeah, that's great to hear. You have a pretty big team too, right? How many people do you have on the team?
Around 40 at this point, and
40.
My team is all around the country, so we're not, localized. Everybody works from home, different time zones, clients, different time zones.
Yeah. Something I want to learn a little bit personally, a little bit more about, and I don't know if my audience is with me on this one, but flex work culture. This is kind of the first time I'm hearing that. And then let's talk about that first. And then second, how important workplace culture is. We know how important it is. But how do you monitor that remotely? So it's kind of like a 3-part question.
Yeah, I think for us, it starts at the interview process. We are set up to create a work environment that you can work up to full time if you want to, but you can also work more on your own terms. So we're setting up benchmarks that people are hitting. So when you work with us as a client, the team's going to check in on you about 3 times every day. So you're getting that responsiveness, but you're only signed up to work with us an hour a day. So we're creating like building blocks around KPIs and metrics and deliverables, that there's utter transparency around what we expect out of the team, what we're selling to clients. And we do a lot of work in small groups so that the team is collaborating. So it's not like a VA just kind of on an island by herself. There's 40 other brains that they're tapping across the day. There's, internal meetings that we hold to ensure, everybody knows what's happening and we're all on the same page. Cool.
So I can wrap my mind around it. And I talked to Krista, and I know she explained it to me. So it's just a matter of a lot coming through here and what sticks. So talk to us about entrepreneurs right now that are listening. If they're wondering, okay, they can go to delegatesolutions.com, and I'll give everyone that again. It's DELEGATE solutions.com. So they can go there to get more resources and assistance. But anyone who's just listening and wants to know, okay, I want to start hiring a couple of VAs. Where do I begin? What does that even look like?
Yeah, we have a lot of content available on that can help people. It's downloadable content. But you really need to work with a VA, you really need to understand how much work you're looking to hand off. In what frequency do you need them to communicate with you? So is there a lot of urgency in your business? Like, do you need immediate response times, or can it wait a couple hours? You need to think about what types of tasks you need help with. Does time zone matter? What types of personalities do you work well with? For us, when we work with clients, we need to understand what your goals and priorities are. So that's sort of like a must do on our, to onboard with us, is you have to be able to articulate what those things are, because we help you build out a delegation strategy that supports those particular goals.
That's awesome. So for the company that is pretty much all virtual right now, how do you build rapport within your company? Obviously you can do, I don't know if you guys use Zoom or some kind of virtual platform, but the water cooler situation could be a good and bad thing. It builds rapport within an organization, and it's also people are talking more than they're working, right? So there's that balance. But I know working for some bigger organizations, and even in some smaller offices, the camaraderie is so important. How do you build that virtually?
Good question. So there's a lot of different ways that we do it. It all comes down to our core values, right? So we recite those every single week. We do a lot of internal meetings. So we have a weekly huddle once a week for 15 minutes where the whole company's there and we share updates. We rotate who's hosting, and the person who's hosting tells a story about the core values in action, which is a great way to keep that front and center. And then we have weekly small groups. So the team works in what we call packs, where there's about 5 team members with 1 success manager, and they meet every single week. So it's like top to bottom cascading meetings to keep everyone unified. We also do virtual happy hours sometimes, and we do a water cooler channel in Slack, like you're talking about.
There you go. Cool.
And we do, if you check us out on Instagram, we've been doing this cool series called The Heart of Delegate, where we're featuring a team member and they're telling their story of kind of what brought them here, what they love about the work that we do. And it's just a really fun way to get to know each other. We also do coffee chats we use this tool in Slack called Donut. So we intentionally are spending money and time to make sure that the team is connecting.
And I'll put your Instagram handle up here so people can see it as well. It's very easy to remember. Delegate Solutions. I want to talk about this and commend you on it. I mentioned it in the bio. Let's not roll right through it because it's super awesome. And congratulations. You earned top 50 on Forbes list of remote employers. That's incredible. Top 50. What do you feel makes Delegate a top 50 company in this category?
I think the intentionality around creating a cohesive team. It's very, very hard to do, like when I don't see you, and I don't ever intend to have an office where we have people coming in and out, right? So build virtual culture is not an easy lift, and it requires money, time, initiative, resources, all the things to make that happen remotely. But you'll hear, if you check out some of those Heart of Delegate videos, you'll hear how connected the team is to each other, and that's by design.
Do you plan on having, like, after the pandemic and COVID is kind of under wraps, hopefully sooner than later, right? Maybe like a retreat or something, like a month?
Yeah, we've done regional retreats. So last year, not this past summer, the one before, we hosted down in North Carolina. So we rented a big house, and anyone that was close in that area, we planned a day out with them. We got to meet everybody, and
that's really cool.
We were going to go to Texas this year. So we've been trying to look at where do we have the most pockets of team members. And I think it is on our vision board to be able to do that, but we don't have one planned yet.
Okay. That's cool. I think everyone would enjoy that, to kind of get to know each other a little bit better too, and become friends. There's nothing wrong with being friends with some of the people you work with and, being able to hang out afterwards or whatever. And I'm sure the virtual happy hour is something that everyone on your team really looks forward to. Are you a women-only organization, or do you also have men on the team?
We have my integrator, who's our COO. His name is Joe. He's a male, and then our IT person is a male.
Okay.
It's certainly not by design, but it's just kind of
how it happens. Yeah, that's cool. Here's what I want to ask, a little bit more general question. I know it's kind of tough to answer in take as much time as you want, and you can go any which way you want with this question, but what do you feel makes a great leader?
I think a great leader knows how to empower their team. And it's the only way to grow. So my opinion.
So it's not so much about it's more about team. And it's like, the word is in your company name, delegate. But, it's so important. One thing I really struggle with, and this is on my small team, and, my editor is watching this as I speak right now, but it's hard for me to, when I implement something or roll out, hey, this is a project we need, and then I put as much into it as I can, knowing this is what needs to get done. But then managing it, not micromanaging it, following up, making sure I'm not too, you want to be picky and precise because you want it done right. But there's that balance of being a little bit too crazy and making sure it gets done right. So how do you balance that? That's pretty tricky, isn't it? Especially with a team of 40.
Okay, well, that's a loaded question. So.
Now they're all listening. Hold on, tune in. Wait, let's get the timestamp. Send an email out to your team. Timestamp.
Okay, so we follow what is called EOS, the Entrepreneur's Operating System. It's a transformational way to grow a team.
That's Gino Wickman's.
Yes.
Right. I'm starting to read that book, Traction.
Called Traction.
Yes.
So we've been running on EOS for 2 years, and we worked with the best implementer around. He's now the chief visionary at EOS Worldwide. He's one of our clients and a good friend of mine. So running on that system is what has created the success I think that we've been able to get out of empowering the team, because we're creating transparency, we're creating alignment, and we're focused on team health as part of how we're running the business.
I like that. Team health. That means so many different things. It's physical health. It's important to let your team get out and be themselves. And, we have to have a balanced life of diet, exercise, and sleep. And I know a lot of times as a leader, entrepreneur, those things, and I'll just speak for myself here, but those things are out of alignment pretty consistently for me. Usually it's sleep that I'm not getting enough of because I'm trying to put that last email out or whatever, or check LinkedIn for the 37th time because there's a new message, and you get it. Here's what we'd like to learn. We got a little bit extra time left here. So when you're not steering the Delegate Solutions ship, what do you enjoy doing, right? Like what makes you? I mean, when you get to kind of turn it off for a moment.
So I'm very much into home, and we got chickens this year. So been figuring out how to take care of chickens. I still haven't gotten an egg. It's going to be the most expensive egg when I finally get an egg. So
I never thought about that. So you purchase chickens, and then you have to figure out how to get them to actually lay an egg. It's not just like they do it without the proper conditions and everything, right?
But they're like totally prey for anything. So it's all about protecting them and making sure that they're safe. So we spent a lot of money on that part of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I still
fencing and everything, getting your land all taken care of.
Yeah, we built like Jurassic Park, like a enclosure.
Like if a T-Rex gets in here, it's not getting out.
Pretty much. So I'm doing that. We put a pool in this year. So we've done a lot of stuff like projects at home, especially this year. I think most people have. And I have 3 dogs and a 13-year-old son. So a lot of my time is spent around the house.
That's cool. I always get geeked up when I hear Jurassic Park. It was my favorite movie growing up. I just picture Dennis Nedry like screwing the whole thing up right now, and all the chickens are getting out, right?
Yeah. It's terrifying.
So shout out to your family, right? They're the big part of making you who you are. You do all this for them. I could tell that when we were talking off camera, and you kind of lit up when we were talking about your son. So give a shout out to your family. They're a big part of why you're doing this.
Yeah, I mean, they support me, which is really an important part as an entrepreneur. You need I think what I've learned, because I'm divorced and I'm now re-engaged to someone else. And I think for me, it's been about having somebody that can be with someone that has big dreams and doesn't try and stifle that. And it's a security thing, I think, in people, but, someone that's supportive and is willing to think big and think differently. That's
awesome. It is so important. That's definitely something not to overlook. It's so important to, be with a supportive partner. And then congratulations on that. It's not easy to find someone who is like, oh, you're running this team of 40 people and you're going to be doing it 15 hours a day. And, it's like having 40 children. I know. And I don't mean that in like a, negative way. I'm just saying, like, it's literally, you got all these people, they have their own situations and family, and a lot goes into it. So someone to come, stand by your side and say, I support you. I realize you're going to have some crazy days, and I'm here when you need, like, a shoulder, or if you just need to, let's go out tonight because you're feeling it, I'm here for you. And then, you return that sentiment. It's not, you're not doing anyone a favor. That's just part of the relationship. And that goes with other family members too. That could be spouses and parents, and someone might be listening to this and they're like looking to just start their first idea. Maybe they're 18 years old and they're just getting into it. They're getting out of high school and going into the world. There's this big pressure on getting that college degree. I'm not telling people it's not important to get a college degree if that's something that's going to help them go to where they want, but I would say, as important as it is, like if you go to school to be a dentist, there's going to be a big check that comes along with that, right? Big bill, I should say, right? And, but that's like an honorable thing. You go off to school, you go to a nice prestigious school. I'm sure UPenn was not inexpensive,
I went for free.
You got a scholarship?
No, because I worked there. So I got to graduate for free from Penn.
There's another free tip, guys, a little insight, look into working on campus, see what you can do wherever you're at. My point is, though, it's kind of looked upon, if you go into a particular profession and you spend 4 to 8 years in schooling because you're going to get your, now it's like bachelor's degrees, like a high school diploma, right? So then you got to get your master's. And then some people are like, I'm getting a master's in two different things, or teachers I know are going to school until they're 40 years old, and surgeons are in school till they're 42 years old, and whatever. But entrepreneurs, it's like, if you start something, whoa, that's a little crazy. It's outside the box, right? Well, that's where we get our education, is learning. Now there's amazing online courses you can go to. I would suggest people do take some business and entrepreneur classes to learn in the classroom. But what you've done, Emily, and what I've done, and what other people who've been on the show have done, is the fact that they've done it. Like, you went and did it. So learning in the classroom is like a precursor to it all coming together. You got to go and take action. Some people take action first and kind of learn as they go. That was my style. And I don't suggest that unless you really are able to be okay swimming without, any roadmap in your hand, like figuring it out. Because it's, so talk about that too. Like, how much of this in the beginning for you was planned out, and how much, so talk to early entrepreneurs right now, how much of it was planned as you go?
So, and I mean, I've always been very good with goals and getting educated. So I'll give 2 plugs. First plug, Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. 100 hours over 3 months. It's free, and it's all about creating a growth plan for your business. So that to me was a transformational.
Say that one more time. Goldman Sachs 10K Small Business. You're an alum, which I tagged at the beginning. You just mentioned it. It's a free course you could take?
It's free, 100 hours. You have to apply. We have one here in Philly. There's different sites all over the country. But to me, that was a transformational program because of the relationships that I developed while in the program with all the peers of other entrepreneurs who are still some of my deepest friends 7 years later, however long it's been.
When did you take that? Was it after you already were in business or prior?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was about 5 years ago.
Okay. And you've been doing this for a little over a decade now? 13
years.
That's awesome. And this is the first year where people are, like, when they hear about you, probably it feels a little different. You have a little less explaining to do when you say, I got people working remotely, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Then the other program I'm actually a board chair on is the EO Accelerator program. We also have one of those here in Philly, and that's 4 learning days and monthly accountability groups. But again, solid, entrepreneurial focused education in a setting with other peers that are going through the same types of experiences that I will share with you.
Are you a member of a mastermind group at all? Do you find benefit in getting together?
Like at least 3.
Yeah. That's cool. I'm going to get into a couple more things here that I think will benefit our audience. And I know we're kind of running a little bit thin on time. Who is your biggest influence? And then talk about some of your favorite books and podcasts that you get your inspiration from.
So I'm also in Strategic Coach, which is a coaching program that helps entrepreneurs create companies that can run themselves. So Dan Sullivan is the founder of that. So I follow a lot of his methodologies and tools. I've been in that program for about 5 years also. So that's a quarterly workshop. You fly to Toronto or wherever you want to go to the workshop. Right now we're virtual, but I think the methodology that they have created is massively influential to how I've built my business. Awesome. Along with EO, they're kind of like sisters.
Yeah. So we already mentioned Gino Wickman, Traction, great book. I started to dive into it recently. Podcasts as well. I know you've been on a few, including this one, of course. When you're listening or traveling or, taking the 2 dogs for a walk, right? You have 2 dogs, right? Spaniels, 3. what do you usually tune into?
So I do a lot of Audible, so listening to books. One of my favorites was Good to Great. I think that is like really an excellent book, even though it's older. So many good lessons in there. I have 2 on my desk that I haven't started yet, but one is Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree, and one is Great Game of Business by Jack Stack.
Great
so
game.
About to read this next. But I'm usually on Audible because I'll do that while I'm like doing my makeup. I'll listen to that.
Yeah. I have to say, doing this show, I mean, I learned from incredible people like yourself, and everyone is like tuned in. And one of the things I can tell you guys, if you're tuning in and you're younger entrepreneurs, like take this as a huge lesson right here. Emily is tuned into the EO Accelerator program, Strategic Coach with Dan Sullivan. Good to Great book she's listening to probably numerous times, even though it's older. The principles are great. She just showed 2 new books she's reading. She's got a collection behind her, which is probably just a fraction of her actual collection because she's listening to them. What's my point in saying all this? Like, take what is out there to learn from it. Because 100 years ago, if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, you had to be in a family that had resources. You had to have access to a library. I don't know what it was like to get access to information, but you had to go there, probably spend the day there, write your notes out. You didn't have copy and paste. You couldn't email it to yourself. There was no, obviously, internet to just grab information. YouTube, you want to do it yourself in 5 seconds, you can YouTube it today. So there's like, when I hear people struggling with kind of rolling out a game plan, it's like, man, all the resources are right there for you. There's no excuse. Like, I understand if you get stuck once you're going and you got to pivot and all this other stuff, but there's really no excuse to learn what it takes to begin.
You have to be willing to invest in yourself as a leader, because these are not, you don't just,
right.
I mean, you might have like gut instinct and you might have luck and all of that, but like, these are things you have to learn over time. And there's so many people that are willing to share even free information. So I agree with you.
Yeah, a lot of it is free podcasts. Many of them are free, or most of them, I should say. Guys, right there, invest in yourself. Go back and listen to that one more time. Invest in yourself. Okay, so if you can be known for one thing, what would it be and why?
So I'm very big on respect. So I want to be respected, and I want to feel respected. And when I sort of lose my mind, it's when I feel disrespected. So respect is a big part of it. And then our vision for the business, and sort of it ties to my ultimate vision, which is create freedom for people to do what they love so they can make a big impact. So freedom is another motivator for me, and being able to do what you love, because I've seen people that, are not empowered to do what they love to do each day, and it's just a whole different way of living. So
yeah, you want to allow them to be on purpose, so then they can go and do the things they feel inspired to do to make the world a better place. And then in turn, they're free in the fact that they're doing what they love to do. But then as they continue to build success, they can get a little bit more of freedom there too. Right. Which is like, you just came back from a beautiful trip from Maine, right?
And I didn't check email. I didn't check Slack. I did nothing. He ran without me. I came back. Okay, here I am.
Yeah. So I'm going to be working with you to learn the magic trick there. And I know a lot of the things are taught in EO and strategic coach and everything we just talked about, but that's the one thing I'm not there yet personally, where it's like the ship runs and you can take, a week off, or I can take my daughter somewhere. I have a 5-year-old daughter, and I would love to take her to Disney once I feel it's a little bit safer and everything else. And as much as that feels great, knowing we're going to do that someday, and I'm excited about it, I like instantly have anxiety about it. Like, I don't want to be standing in line for a ride, looking at my phone with 3 messages like, hey, what's going on here? I didn't see this report that, and then me on the phone, like, okay, honey, just 1 second. Mickey Mouse is right there, and like not be in the moment. That's not going to be me. So I got to, continue to grow and you utilize a team like you have. And I'm learning a lot from you right here in the moment. So if you can now teach our audience or inspire them to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would you tell them?
I think, again, it comes down to finding something that you love to do, that people want to buy, and creating a business that delivers on that thing that isn't directly tied to you. Like, I feel like I just wrote about this. I feel like I'm in the center of the business and like it's a tornado that kind of swirls around me, right? Like I'm not being hit by it anymore. Like the stresses of it are not hitting me anymore, which is
That's great.
Typically, I mean, not always, but most of the time.
Yeah.
But, I want to be outside of that tornado, kind of watching it and sort of directing people where to go, like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like a GM of a football team. Like you're not on the field, you're not getting hit. You're not even the head coach, because like you worked with him all weekend with the game plan and how they're setting things up and implementing it. And you're making sure they have the resources to be successful. You're putting the team on the field that's the best players that can get the job done. And you can kind of sit in the booth a little bit and not just kick back and watch it, but everything that you see is what you're responsible for.
Right.
So good, bad, or ugly. If it isn't going well, you're going to have a rough night or, upcoming week. And if it does go well, you're still figuring out how can we replicate success. And that's the thing with business. There's no end game. Some people think you'll get into it and like crank it and sell your business. And if that's your goal, that's one thing. That's like flipping houses, flipping a business. When you're actually in something that you believe in, it's on purpose. You're not planning on selling the business. It's who you are as a person. When you win, you want to continue to win. You don't just say, okay, I did it once and I'm good, or I collected a paycheck on a great proposal I just closed, I'm done. It's consistently growing. And I appreciate you talking about that perspective and describing it as a tornado, because it is a lot of days a tornado. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just means there's a lot going on. It's got the energy. A business has the energy of it. If your business doesn't have the energy of a tornado, I'd probably ask you what the heck is going on. Like, are you not sending emails out? Are you not following up with people? Are you not creating a new website or whatever? Like every business has different important things that need to be going on. Social media. What's your strategy? Who's creating your content? What's the call to action? What's your marketing campaign look like? What does your branding actually mean? Why are you called Delegate Solutions? What's this and that? You got core values you talked about. Those are worked on consistently. Every year, you don't roll out the same game plan. We're in October as we record this. You're already thinking about January right now. I know you are. So, that's how it is. It is a tornado. And no differently than many industries.
I'll also say it's always changing, to your point, and I'm always scared. So it's not like you stop being scared. I'm scared every single day. I have responsibility for 40 people's paychecks, It's terrifying if I let myself go there, but I just kind of like acknowledge the fear and just keep moving.
Yeah. So you describe it as fear. I'm interested in that. So there's like an anxiety behind the responsibility that I'm sure is pretty common, but that comes with what you're doing something tremendous. Like it's a high scale deal. Like it's a 40 person. Some companies are 400, 4,000, 40,000. It's crazy, but even if it's 4 people, that's four families that you're responsible for. Right. So I think that's good because that means you care. If you were careless, you would just kind of go with the flow, and numero uno is important. But so having that kind of fear, but at the same time, I know how important mindset is and how fear can steal a lot of things. So how do we talk about, or what can we talk about there as far as taking that fear and maybe turning it into positive energy? What do you find yourself kind of doing there?
I meditate every day, and I find that reflecting on, hey, when I was scared about something last time, look, it all worked out and it's fine. And hey, I was scared to invest $20,000 in marketing, but whenever I invest money in the business, we grow. So it's kind of like a learned over time experience.
Yeah. It's like the butterflies. You go on stage, you're a little nervous, you're excited, you're going to do a keynote speech, or if it's a musician playing an instrument, you're excited. And if you weren't, you wouldn't, the pilot light's off, like the excitement level's gone. A few things I'd like to wrap up with, and then anything else you'd like to share. But I always talk about gratitude. You mentioned it a couple of times, being grateful for the situations that we're in and being able to do the work you do. I know you're grateful for it. Can you share 3 things you're most grateful for?
Sure. I'm grateful for an amazing leadership and management team that allows me, like last year I took a month off and I didn't check in at all. So that's only possible because people are excited about what we're doing and feel responsible for it and want to be a part of it. I'm grateful for a secure, stable home environment where I live with my family.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for friends and family that encourage me, even though like my parents, they still like, we don't get it. We just don't understand what we do, but they're supportive, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find yourself like with the holidays and stuff? Do they ask you, and then when you start to talk, you can see like their eyes glazing over? Like they're just not.
Yeah, 13 years in, like they get it more. So like last year when I won Small Business Person of the Year award with the Philly Chamber, it was a huge deal. And I brought my son and my parents and my partner and his parents, and like we had a whole table, and
That's
like
awesome.
they were just so supportive. My son is hilarious. He was like the only kid at the event, and I got up and I largely thanked my son for inspiring the company. And so now to this day, he's like, well, I'm responsible for the business being started anyway. Like,
yeah,
he says that to me.
Now that again, I left that out, and we talked about it before we started the interview. Philly 100 2020 winner.
That's different.
Oh, that's a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so can finish talking about what it was that you just did. And then let's talk about the Philadelphia 100.
Yeah, the Philly Chamber, I won the Small Business Person of the Year award, which was a huge honor because it's a peer selected process that I had an interview for, like the whole thing. It was a huge deal and one of my proudest moments as a business owner, for sure.
Yeah.
This Philly 100 is the 100 fastest growing companies in Philly. So we've been on that now 2 years. This is our second year on that list.
So right now you're sitting in Philadelphia. That's home for you? Yeah.
Much.
So you see a lot of Bill stuff behind me, guys. If you're watching this, you're watching the full length on YouTube, you can see a lot of Buffalo Bills stuff. And I have other teams. We got Brett Favre here, Walter Payton, and there's a ton of other greats. I do have a Josh Allen over here as well. But we have some love for you out in Philadelphia, just so you know, right? A couple of years ago, you guys beat who in the Super Bowl? Tom Brady and the Patriots, right? So we were all, and actually, do you know that Super Bowl, the number one market that watched that Super Bowl was Buffalo over the two cities, obviously being Philadelphia and Boston. And those markets were like second and third. Buffalo is number one.
That's amazing.
We're crazy, and we're not as big of a city too. So we have less people, but more people, the percentage is higher of who's tuned in with the amount of households. So we love sports. I mean, that's right now as we record this, the Bills are 4-0. We're actually playing tonight. This is the Tuesday. We're recording this on the crazy Tuesday that the Titans had to bump the game because of COVID. I think that the way it's being handled, they need a couple entrepreneurs like yourself to come in and figure out the scheduling because they really handled it poorly. They had like 34 between players and staffers. It was like 34 members, I want to say it was, that had at one time or another a negative test. They were told they should not be getting together. They were getting together in a high school. They broke protocol, all kinds of crazy stuff. And now they impacted the Bills, who are having a great season. We were supposed to play them Sunday and then play the Chiefs on Thursday. Now we're playing this game on a Tuesday, and the Chiefs game got bumped to next week. So like the Bills followed all the protocol. They've been doing good. And now they're getting jerked around. Like they didn't fly out until I think late last night because they weren't even sure if the game would happen.
Crazy.
Like, how do you not penalize or have some kind of thing in place? They had 6 months to prepare. Like the pandemic was already going on 6 months prior to kickoff. And MLB had a little bit of a struggle in the beginning with the Marlins getting a lot of players got sick. The NBA had the bubble, but I feel like the NFL is just like really mismanaging this whole thing.
I know. I was surprised they didn't do the bubble and compress it. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're grateful that we can watch football, right?
Totally grateful. Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah, it feels good. But I just hope, obviously I want the Bills to win, but I don't want this to be that weird game where now all of a sudden key players on the Bills are out with COVID, and it impacts a important game next week against Kansas City and everything else. But the reason we're talking football right now is because of the Philly special play. I love that.
Woo-hoo!
Big to Foles right there, where they kind of rubbed it in the face of Bill Belichick. Like, oh, we got a little trick play for you. Where'd we learn this one from?
We have it memorialized all around the house. And I always said if I ever got a tattoo, I was getting the Philly special play. It was going to be a tattoo.
Yeah, I love it. Just that was a crazy game, too. Tom Brady threw for over 500 yards and still lost. I don't even know how that's possible for a team to do that. But Foles was that good, too. I don't think he had 500, but he was like 380 maybe and 3 or 4 touchdowns. And the thing that, and I was talking about that funny video I saw where there was a Philadelphia fan. He's leaving his house. And his wife is filming him. It's hilarious, right? And he's got this big luggage. It looks like it's her luggage. It's this big purple luggage. He's carrying it down the stairs and through the sidewalk. She's like, honey, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm going to get Nick Foles. I'm going to Chicago, right? I mean, I don't understand how I say you guys, like as if you were on the team, but how Philly let him go. He just was clutch against the number one coach team in the world in the history of sports. Like Bill Belichick does not let quarterbacks ever look comfortable, and Nick Foles balled out MVP of the game. Like that dude should have been strapped to a contract immediately.
It was the best day of my life, and then the second best was the parade day. But I think, by the way, his book is really good. He wrote a book called Believe It. My son's reading it.
Who's that, Nick Foles?
Yeah, it's a quick read.
I'm going to check it out.
It's his memoir type book.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I agree. I don't understand how they go about the way they staff these teams and the caps and everything. I don't get it.
He's doing well, and he has his moments. Okay, so backup quarterbacks. A lot of times when they come in, the team didn't prepare for that quarterback. So I think there's a little bit of that. Okay, we're playing a little bit differently. And the backup quarterback has almost nothing to lose. They weren't starting anyway. So if they lose their job to the starter again, they were back to where they were. So they're playing a little bit looser maybe. They're just I'm going all out. This is my chance to win the job back, whatever. And Foles now knows, I've done this before. I did it in Philly. I unseated the first early round draft pick. I know he was hurt, but still he didn't lose his job once he got healthy again. Once he finally did, then he had to go and do this whole thing again in Chicago, and he's doing it again. But I guess, he didn't look super good, I guess, in the beginning. I don't know if that was this year. But once he got settled in now, he's balling again. So I think that's great. Again, I think anyone listening to this, looking for inspiration, look at Nick Foles as a guy who just never gives up. He's, never really been given the starting role as a quarterback. Think about a little kid playing football in the backyard, always wanted to play at the high level. He's a Super Bowl MVP and still considered not good enough by the NFL. But he's never given up. He's not letting what other people are saying about him define him. He's playing to his ability each and every time he gets a chance. And I think that's what anyone who's listening should do within their own sport, whether your sport's business, it could be just your personality, be the best you can every single day. Anything else you'd like to share with our audience before we part ways?
Nick Foles is Philly royalty, for the record. So
okay.
We were not part of that decision, unfortunately.
Yeah, he's going to always have that. He eats free anytime he stops in town, that's for sure.
He's an inspirational dude, for sure.
Yeah, I like it. I'm going to check his book out. I actually have a book coming today that is called, I'll tell you a quick funny story with the 2 minutes we got left. Let Love Rule is a song by Lenny Kravitz. I love singing it in the car because it's 8 minutes long and it's great. It's a feel-good song. I think the world needs to live by that right now. Let love rule. I think to end racism, we just need to simply go back to some root causes of why it's important to just love people for people and don't care about their political power, political affiliation, what their sign says that they're holding in the street. It's a human being that's holding a sign. Just love people for. So love that song. Play it with my daughter in the car. She sings it with me. And I think it was Friday or Saturday. I was working, and I like to work and play music. So that I put a Lenny Kravitz concert on, and they ended on that was their encore song was Let Love Rule. And then I think they played one more after, but it was like this super huge performance version of it. And I was creating content for a client. And I was like, I'm going to create a Lenny Kravitz Let Love Rule thing because I just feel like the world needs it. I'm going to post it on my own social. And I created like this little image that moves and it says it's Lenny playing, and I changed the background and I put the text in there. And I post it, not thinking anything of it. Do you know he has a book that came out this week called Let Love Rule?
I saw that because I think they had him on Sunday morning.
Yeah,
TV.
I had no idea. And literally, that's how the universe works. Like the energies you put out into the world have, I'm not saying, I created this thing that Lenny was going to make that book, but something told me to put that. I could have put on 100 different bands that I love to listen to. But that day, that night, it was that song out of the whole hour and a half set list hit me. I decided to take time to create a piece of content. And just so you know, I bought his book and it's in the mail right now. It might be on the front doorstep.
Very exciting.
So, all right. I know you got to run. This was so cool. You are awesome. I'm super excited for what you're doing. 13 years into it. Here's what I love about you. You have this like cool, calm, collected personality. I can tell you have it together, and I can tell you're super passionate about people. And I think when I asked you the question, what makes a great leader, I'm learning about it just by watching how you have your stuff together.
Thank you.
So,
That's so sweet.
I really appreciate you. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I'm going to give the website one more time, delegatesolutions.com. You can follow Emily. It's Emily Morgan, Morgan, and she's on LinkedIn. Also, linkedin.com/in/Delegate Solutions. Tune into what they're doing because they're doing some really cool stuff. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Mike. It was wonderful. Thank you.
I love you guys, and thank you so much for tuning in. Check out more show notes and information on each episode at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKEDuppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You guys know what to do. Be great and be grateful.